Let me go. I cried out in sheer terror. But that hand clamped down so tightly on my wrist that it hurt terribly, leaving a dark bruise that was shockingly visible. Lila, you're such a disobedient child. What's wrong with helping Grandma just once? Grandma has watched you grow up since you were little, and now you're even unwilling to lend a hand? Grandma is heartbroken. The tenderness on her face had completely vanished, replaced by a grim, almost savage expression. In her cloudy eyes, a strange glint of malice flickered briefly. My earlier scream had been loud enough, yet it hadn't stirred my mom in the slightest. Come to think of it, even if I'd screamed myself hoarse, she probably still wouldn't have heard a thing. I forced myself to calm down, frantically replaying in my mind everything that had happened over the past couple of days. This Grandma showed up once last night, and now she's back again. There's no doubt she's up to something sinister. And it's clear as day that her real goal is for me to do this so-called favor for her. I forced myself to steady my wildly pounding heart. Even though I knew with near certainty that the creature before me wasn't human, I still had no choice but to brace myself and face it head-on. Taking a deep breath, I could hear nothing but the frantic thumping of my own heartbeat in my ears. Stammering, I finally asked, "What favor?" The gleam in the Grandma's eyes grew even sharper. Right now, the way she was staring at me felt like a starving wolf eyeing a juicy piece of meat. I watched as she stuck out her tongue and licked her chapped lips, her voice hoarse and raspy as she said, "Lila's so fresh and lovely, just like a soft, tender little cake. Like Grandma, take just one tiny bite, shall we?" I was completely dumbfounded. I was so shocked that my mouth hung open and I stammered out, "Huh? Grandma, this really isn't right, is it? Could this old creep possibly be a pervert?" Just as the thought flashed through my mind, I suddenly recalled the scene earlier. Silas had been holding me close, looking as if he wanted to gobble me up whole. In that instant, it all clicked. This Grandma was just like Silas. Both of them were coveting my body. What on earth is so special about my body? Why does it always attract these filthy, despicable people? Nothing like this has ever happened before, but right after I took off the silver amulet at that party last night, strange things started happening one after another. Oh yeah, the silver amulet. Where's my silver amulet? Last night, Evan returned it to me, and I'd even obediently put it around my neck. But now, when I touch the spot, it's completely empty. Oh no, Evan's definitely going to rip my head off now. Even as this thought popped into my head, I found myself strangely puzzled. At a moment like this, when my life was hanging in the balance, shouldn't I have been terrified of the Grandma right in front of me? Instead, why was I thinking first about Evan's threat? Looks like, deep down in my subconscious, Evan is way scarier than that old monster. Just one bite will do. The Grandma's greedy gaze seemed to stick to me, her voice dripping with seductive charm. At the same time, I saw her slowly opening her mouth, and to my utter horror, two sharp, gleaming fangs suddenly appeared inside. As those fangs drew nearer and nearer, I frantically flailed my arms, struggling desperately. Cluck, cluck, cluck. Suddenly, a piercing cockcrow echoed once again from the yard. I shot awake, instinctively sitting up in bed in one swift motion, drenched in cold sweat. There was no one by my bed, but the silver amulet around my neck was indeed gone. Had I just had a dream within a dream? I dared not stay in the room any longer. With a quick shove, I threw open the door and burst out into the yard. In the middle of the yard sat a listless, big red rooster, and Mom was crouched beside it, anxiously examining its condition. "Mom," I croaked, my throat parched. Mom immediately looked up at me and asked, "Why didn't you sleep a little longer?" "Mom, I just had a nightmare about that Grandma." She had sharp teeth in her mouth and was trying to bite me. It was terrifying, I said, trembling all over. If it hadn't been for the rooster's crow, I probably still would have been stuck in that dream. This big red rooster has been with our family ever since I was 10 years old, and over the years we've always taken good care of him. The chickens in our coop have come and gone, but he's the only one who's survived, almost as if he were our family's guardian spirit. Hearing what I said, Mom instantly understood and said with a serious expression, No wonder he suddenly started crowing in the middle of the day. It must have sensed something sinister. By the way, where's your silver amulet? Why did you take it off again? I shook my head frantically. I didn't. I really didn't take off the amulet. It just disappeared somehow. I don't know how it happened at all. Never before had I seen Mom's expression so solemn. She grabbed my hand in a tight grip and said urgently, "Come on, let's go find Mr. Gordon." About 10 years ago, Mr. Gordon moved to our little town. He's a well-known medium in the area. Mom said that the ritual I underwent as a child to ward off evil spirits and ensure my safe upbringing was all arranged by him. Whenever anyone in town ran into strange or unsettling occurrences, they'd always come knocking at his door, asking for his help. By the time we arrived at Mr. Gordon's house, he was just sitting down to lunch. But as soon as he caught sight of both Mom and me, his expression subtly shifted. Even the chopsticks in his hand paused midair, and he suddenly lost all appetite for the braised pork in his bowl. Before Mom could say a word, Mr. Gordon spoke first. As soon as I saw that the silver amulet around Lila's neck was gone, I knew something was wrong. Mom immediately stepped forward, her voice urgent yet filled with pleading. "Mr. Gordon, please save my daughter. She's not even 20 yet. She's at the prime of her life, still so young and full of potential. As long as you can save her, I'm willing to pay any price." "Mom." I bit my lip, tears streaming down my face from sheer emotion. Mr. Gordon studied me carefully for a moment, then sighed and said, "Well, Lila has grown up, and there are some things she really ought to know now." I gripped Mom's hand tightly, my heart pounding with anxiety. Back then, Lila wasn't just haunted by evil spirits, because she was born near an abandoned graveyard. One of her 3 souls and 7 spirits had been stolen by wandering ghosts and lost souls right at birth. On top of that, she was a foreign body, a fate that should have claimed her life when she turned 10. Thanks to this silver talisman of the Dragon King, she was able to grow up safely. But now that the talisman is lost, the aura of her foreign body can no longer be contained. She's become a real, hot commodity, attracting all sorts of malevolent spirits eager to snatch her up. Without the talisman and the protection of her one soul, I'm afraid Lila won't survive much longer. At this point, Mr. Gordon let out a heavy, helpless sigh. Right now, there's really nothing I can do. Mom's eyes instantly widened, filled with shock and disbelief. "And my daughter, she's going to die." Mr. Gordon nodded solemnly. "She will, unless we can find the talisman again," or he paused suddenly mid-sentence, shook his head, and then said, "Forget it. The other option. I don't think it'll work. Mr. Gordon, please tell us. Just tell us. No matter whether it's feasible or not, we just have to give it a shot." I looked at him, my voice brimming with unwavering determination. I couldn't put my hope in the silver amulet. After all, that thing was way too eerie. No matter how tightly I wore it, it always seemed to vanish on its own. So I had no choice but to pin my hopes on another approach. Mr. Gordon hesitated, then glanced at me thoughtfully. "Lila," he said slowly, "are you really sure you want to try this?" "Yes." I nodded vigorously. After a long silence, Mr. Gordon finally spoke again, his voice low and deliberate. "The other option is to become Evan, the Dragon King's woman completely, and to bear his very own, exclusive mark." These words left both my mom and me utterly stunned. We exchanged a quick glance, then licked our dry lips and asked in hoarse voices, "Mr. Gordon, what exactly do you mean by becoming his woman completely? What does completely even entail?" I don't know why, but hearing those words gave me a really bad feeling. Mr. Gordon's face briefly flashed with embarrassment. He glanced at my mom and gently ushered her out of the room. Once we were left alone in the room, he lowered his voice and said, 10 years ago, you and the Dragon King only performed the binding ritual, but you never actually consummated the marriage. So technically, you're not really his wife. Originally, having the silver talisman would have been enough to save your life. But now that the talisman is gone, the only way forward is for you to ask the Dragon King for help. As long as you can obtain his Dragon King's power, you'll be able to survive safely. As for how to get the Dragon King's power, well, it involves the union of yin and yang. You know what I mean, right? I froze for a few seconds, then suddenly realized what he was saying. Mr. Gordon was suggesting that I have sex with Evan. My face instantly turned as red as if set on fire, and my voice began to stammer uncontrollably. Titus, is this really the only way? Is there absolutely no other option? No, Mr. Gordon sighed regretfully. It's already a grave taboo for the silver talisman to be removed from your body. There are simply too many malevolent spirits out there. Too many for me to stand against alone. I was left speechless in an instant. I truly had no idea where the silver talisman had gone. Just before I went to sleep, it had been around my neck, but when I woke up, it was nowhere to be found. Lila, you'd better hurry, Mr. Gordon said with a serious expression. A lot of dark forces have set their sights on you now. Without the Dragon King's protection, you'll probably end up being eaten clean, right down to the last scrap. Hearing those words sent shivers down my spine, and in that instant, images of Silas and that fake grandmother gnawing at me flashed through my mind. I don't doubt his words for a single moment, but this solution is just too embarrassing. Besides, even if I were willing to go along with it, Evan might not agree. After all, he's never seemed to have a very good impression of me. Thanks, Mr. Gordon, I said politely, nodding my head. I'll think about what you suggested. Mr. Gordon hummed in response and didn't say another word. As soon as I stepped out of the room, my mom rushed over, asking anxiously, "What did Mr. Gordon say? Is there really a way to help you?" Just thinking about the solution Mr. Gordon had mentioned made my face flush again. How could I possibly bring myself to tell my mom about something like that? After hesitating for a moment, I still decided to keep it a secret. "Mom, it's nothing. Mr. Gordon said this solution has to stay between just me and him. Don't worry. I can handle it myself." Mom looked at me skeptically and asked, "Really?" I nodded vigorously. Anyway, I was planning to go see Evan tonight anyway. Although this approach was utterly humiliating, it didn't even compare to the stakes. My life was at risk. So tonight, I'd just give his attitude a shot first. As I pictured Evan's stunningly handsome face, a strange thought suddenly flashed through my mind. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad after all? But then his cold, aloof, and arrogant gaze made me instantly uneasy again. If I dared to make such a request, would he really strangle me right there on the spot? My heart was racing like a roller coaster, and to keep Mom from worrying, I had to force myself to appear calm on the surface. When I got home, Mom had prepared my favorite dish, potato stew with braised meat, but I couldn't bring myself to eat much. Just seeing the meat made me think of the earthworms Grandma used to feed me, and my stomach felt like it was churning violently. After taking a few random bites of rice, I ended up staying in Dad's room with Mom. Bold looking at my dad lying unconscious in bed, I made a silent vow to myself. I'll find a way to save him, and I'll also uncover who did this to him. Time flew by so quickly. As soon as the sun set, I felt the atmosphere around me grow eerily strange. It was as if countless pairs of eyes were lurking in the shadows, staring intently at every move I made. The sky grew darker and darker, and my heart grew increasingly tense. Evan had asked me to meet him at 5 Mile Creek at 11 o'clock, but it was already 10, and Mom was getting ready to go to bed. 5 Mile Creek is a small river beside our little town, about 20 meters wide. From my house, it would take at least half an hour to get there at the fastest pace. After I made sure the lights in my parents' room had gone out, I grabbed my phone and quietly slipped out of the house. I didn't tell Mom. I didn't want to worry her. Tonight, the moon was exceptionally bright, its silvery light flooding the earth and casting an eerie glow over everything around me. Bold, I hurried along under the moonlight, eager to find Evan as quickly as possible. But the feeling of being watched grew stronger and stronger. In the darkness, vague shadows began to emerge one by one. At the same time, I suddenly heard my mother's voice in my ear. "Lila, it's so late. Where are you going?" My steps came to an abrupt halt. Could it be that Mom had spotted me sneaking out? But then I thought again. Even if she had noticed, there was no way she'd call out to me only when I was halfway there. Besides, the voice was right next to my ear, and a chilling cold seeped in through the collar of my coat. I gritted my teeth and tried to ignore it, but just as I looked up, I saw a figure standing on the roadside ahead, waving at me. Lila, don't run so fast. The teacher was just asking when you'd be back at school. It was Sophia's voice, of all people. Sophia couldn't possibly be here. I lowered my head and darted past that figure in a flash. Look back at me, Lila. Lila. Lila, let us join you. Slow down a bit. We're about to catch up. I bit down hard on my lip, running forward with all my might. Behind me, the eerie voices kept shifting, each one sounding eerily familiar, yet I knew full well they weren't really them. If I dared to stop even for a second, I'd surely run into something terrifying. I ran straight through to the 5-Mile Creek, collapsing onto the ground from sheer exhaustion, nearly passing out. Evan Thorne, I called out toward the river, my voice hoarse and ragged, gasping for breath. Under the moonlight, the 5-Mile Creek shimmered with silvery waves, its surface as calm and still as a mirror. Just as I was about to call out Evan's name, the river surface suddenly flashed with a blinding silver light. Without thinking, I instinctively raised my hand to shield my eyes. By the time I lowered it again, Evan's figure had already appeared by the riverside. He looked down at me from above, watching as I collapsed onto the ground, drenched in cold sweat, his gaze filled with mockery. I thought you'd end up dying halfway here. Evan sneered coldly. His words struck a chord deep within me. Couldn't this guy just say something human for once? I tilted my head back to look up at him and mustered up the courage to say, if I'd died, you'd have been left without a wife. Hearing this, Evan's body visibly stiffened for a moment. Then he let out a cold laugh. Lila, he said, you're really getting more brazen every day.
Huh?
My life was hanging by a thread. Who cared about saving face anymore? I gave a nervous chuckle and asked, you did say that if I came looking for you tonight, you'd save my dad, right? Is that still on? Humph. Evan snorted, then yanked me off the ground in one swift motion. The crisp, refreshing scent emanating from him washed over me, instantly easing some of my fatigue and sharpening my spirits. Since you've managed to arrive here unharmed, my word is certainly worth something, he said. As he spoke, Evan's gaze fell upon my neck. His eyes narrowed sharply, and his tone turned icy cold in an instant. Have you been treating my words like so much hot air? I instinctively shrank back, but Evan moved even faster, his hand already clamped around my throat. For a moment, I found it hard to breathe, my face turning red from the strain. He'd indeed noticed that the silver amulet was gone. Earlier, he'd warned me that if I dared to remove the amulet again, he'd twist my head right off my shoulders. Could it be that he was actually serious about carrying out his threat? With great difficulty, I forced out a few words. I wouldn't dare. I wouldn't dare. Then where's the silver amulet? His gaze was chillingly cold, almost as if it could swallow me whole. By heaven and earth, I really don't know where the silver talisman has gone. I quickly explained, I just took a nap, and when I woke up, the silver talisman was gone. I swear I didn't do it on purpose. That talisman saved my life. No matter how stupid I might be, I'd never take it off on purpose. I had to make absolutely clear. Otherwise, my life really would be in danger. Evan paused for a moment, then slowly released his grip on my neck. I doubt you'd even dare to, he said with a hint of sarcasm. So he knows I wouldn't dare, and yet he still choked me? This guy really does have a terrible temper. I took deep, gulping breaths of fresh air, keeping my eyes locked on Evan. Only when I saw that his mood seemed to have calmed down a bit did I dare to speak again. Then what about the promise you made to me earlier? I asked cautiously. Evan cut me off mid-sentence, his voice heavy with seriousness. Your family has stirred up some seriously powerful evil spirits. Your dad's condition, if he doesn't wake up within 3 days, there's no chance he'll ever come to. My heart sank instantly, and I hurriedly asked, then what can I do to wake him up? It's simple, Evan said, a confident yet arrogant smirk curling his lips. Just find that evil spirit and kill it. My face was etched with bitter despair. Evan made it sound so easy, but in all my life, I've never even killed a chicken, let alone dealt with an evil spirit. What's the matter? You're afraid? Evan lowered his gaze to look at me, his eyes filled with a hint of contempt. It wasn't that I was afraid. For the sake of my dad, I'd dare to do anything. But I simply didn't have the ability to do it. I shook my head gently and voiced my concerns. After hearing me out, Evan let out a light chuckle. Then, from the wide sleeves of his crimson robe, he reached out, and in the palm of his hand lay a shimmering silver scale. Here you go, he said, handing it to me carefully. What is this? I asked, puzzled. Evan raised an eyebrow and replied, Wear it. It'll guide you to the evil spirit that's been haunting your father. Once you find it, just drip some of your own blood onto its scales. That's it? So simple? I exclaimed, surprised. Evan glanced at me sidelong without saying a word. I slipped the beautiful scale into the pocket closest to my skin, then looked up at Evan. Suddenly, Mr. Gordon's words came flooding back into my mind. My face flushed red again in an instant, and I swallowed hard. How on earth was I supposed to bring up something like this? It was utterly embarrassing. Maybe my gaze had been too blatant, because Evan frowned unhappily and snapped, What are you staring at so intently? Is there something else you need? At his sharp question, I suddenly found myself stammering and feeling utterly uncomfortable. The silver token's gone missing, and those evil spirits are all fixated on me. Mr. Gordon said there's a way to help me get through this tough spot. The more I spoke, the quieter my voice became, almost as if I wished I could just sink into a crack in the ground. Oh, what kind of way? Evan's eyes narrowed dangerously, his tone laced with a hint of scrutiny. I took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and mustered every bit of strength I had left to shout at the top of my lungs. I need your Dragon King power. My cry was so earth-shattering that it sent a flock of birds soaring out of the trees along the riverbank, flapping their wings overhead. As soon as he heard me, I clearly saw Evan's expression shift, from pale green to white, then from white straight to fiery red, a spectacle that looked like a masterfully blended palette of colors. His voice grew sharp and urgent, his words trembling with barely contained fury. You fucking repeat that again? Seeing him looking ready to devour me whole, I didn't dare repeat it even once. My face felt burning hot as I met his murderous gaze. I gave him a deep, 90-degree bow and said, I'm so sorry. I've been terribly rude. I hope you won't take it to heart. As soon as I finished speaking, I turned around and took off running, terrified that if I hesitated even for a moment, he'd strangle me right there on the spot. But after just a few steps, I couldn't help myself. My curiosity got the better of me, and I glanced back over my shoulder, calling out, I'll be back again. Get lost. Evan roared angrily, and suddenly a jet of water came crashing down from the sky, drenching me completely. I wiped the water off my face and thought to myself, he really does have a short fuse. On my way back, I didn't run into those strange figures or voices again. The journey was smooth and uneventful. The past 2 days had left me utterly exhausted, both physically and mentally. After washing up, I collapsed onto my bed, and as soon as my head hit the pillow, I fell fast asleep. That night, I didn't dream of those malevolent spirits anymore, but instead, I found myself dreaming about Evan. In my dream, Evan sat gloomily by my bedside, his eyes fixed on me with a complex expression. I shot up from the bed in one swift motion, instantly realizing that I was dreaming, and my courage suddenly surged. Evan, how did you get here? I asked him spontaneously. Evan looked at me and asked in a low voice, Was what you said by the river earlier really true? What did I say? I froze for a moment, completely caught off guard, unsure which remark he was referring to. His voice grew even deeper and huskier. You said you needed my Dragon King's power. I quickly nodded my head vigorously, like a little chicken pecking at grain. It's a matter of my life. How could I possibly lie about something like that? It seemed that what occupied my thoughts during the day indeed found its way into my dreams at night. I noticed that Evan's expression had grown dark and uncertain, his eyes filled with hesitation. Was he really this hesitant even in my dream? This is my dream. Shouldn't I be the one in control of everything? Then are you going to give it to me or not? I leaned forward slightly, my eyes blinking innocently as I gazed at Evan's face. Once again, I couldn't help but marvel. He really was stunningly handsome. At the sudden closeness, Evan's body instinctively flinched backward. But then I reminded myself that this was my dream, and suddenly, a lascivious thought crossed my mind. It'd be great to practice this in my dream first. So, just as Evan took a step back, I reached out with both hands and wrapped them tightly around his neck. My lips hovered over his thin, beautifully shaped lips, and then I kissed him. Evan's body froze instantly. His deep, piercing eyes widened in utter astonishment, leaving him completely dumbfounded. But when I clumsily bit his lip, the shock in his eyes began to fade, replaced by an emotion so profound it seemed bottomless. He reached out and cupped my head, then leaned in, his cool lips pressing fiercely against mine, grinding gently yet insistently. The next second, his dominant presence overwhelmed me, and I heard his slightly heavy breathing close to my ear. "Lila, you'd better remember, this was all your fault for provoking me first.